Now, something else that has taken place in recent days, a family contacted us in great distress. Their loved one had come to the hospital on Saturday with minor breathing difficulties, nothing major. She received treatment from the hospital. She was in good condition, and the family returned home while their loved one was in the hospital. Now, the family received a great shock on Monday when they received a text from their loved one telling them that she was being brought to ICU. And this came as a great shock because obviously this individual was in very good spirits and in good health, just minor breathing difficulties. Now, after that, the family came straight back to the hospital, and to make a long story very short, they made it very clear to the hospital that they wanted to be notified, simply notified, before any intervention was made, such as putting their loved one on a ventilator. Now, I stress the fact that this individual was in good spirits. They were actually hungry, they wanted something to eat, they were talking to the people around them, and the family were very concerned and they wanted to be notified. Now, the family received a second grave shock some hours later when they heard from a nurse that this individual, their family member, had been put on a ventilator against their wishes and against their express desire that the hospital would notify them before such a procedure. And of course, a ventilator is a very invasive procedure. It's strictly something that is brought in at the end of every other measure, as an absolute last resort. It's not a treatment for any disease. It's simply there to try and keep somebody alive. And like I said, this person was in good spirits, they were in good health, and this came as a great shock. Now, the family were very concerned. They didn't want to leave the hospital. They were concerned about what was happening to their loved one. And again, to make a long story very short, the hospital here called the Gardaí to have the family removed. Now, we heard on Midwest Radio recently, and I'm sure you will have heard, that the Gardaí were called to stop people in A&E from complaining about treatment that their loved ones were not receiving. Now, this is extremely serious, that the hospital would call the guards to remove concerned families. It is beyond serious.
So the
Yes.
week ended, and we're cutting this very short. The family want this to be publicised, but they're looking for confidentiality at the same time at this particular moment, because what happened after that was a very strange move by the hospital. The family continued to resist what they were doing. They wouldn't leave the hospital. They were threatened by security and by the guards continually. But on the Friday, on yesterday, they were told in a very sudden move that the MUH were moving this person out of the ICU here in Castlebar, and were moving her to Limerick, and without giving any specific reason. Now, this is extraordinary.
Against the wishes of the family.
Yes, against the
Totally
wishes of the family. They insisted that they didn't want this to happen. It was the last thing they wanted. They
local
live in
family.
Mayo,
Yeah.
yes, and that would mean hours of a journey to Limerick. They didn't have anywhere to stay. So they were absolutely devastated and brokenhearted and pleaded and begged and did all they could to stop this happening. Mayo University Hospital called the guards, and this place was full of guards yesterday. There was a guards van, there was a guards jeep. They lined up outside the ambulance area there to stop this family from intervening in any way. And this was a very harrowing scene, as this family were devastated, they were brokenhearted, they were weeping as their loved one was taken against their wishes and put into an ambulance and taken to Limerick Hospital. And we're asking you, the public, to call Mayo University Hospital and also call Limerick Hospital and inquire why these things are happening. This is not good enough. Call the ICU in Limerick, call the ICU here in Castlebar, and ask for reasons, because we are not safe going into this hospital now. And the sad thing, again, I would say, is that when we got that call last Monday, I mean, who are we? What can we do? Of course we do all in our power. We come in here and we help them and we speak for them. But there was not one politician. We sat down and we said, is there any politician we could call? Whether it's Fine Gael, Fianna Fáil, any politician, and we just knew we couldn't, that it would be to no avail. And I would say shame again on Sinn Féin, because throughout this year we have contacted Sinn Féin, the opposition, and I would say shame upon them.
Yes.
You know, we're talking about a curse on Mayo, but I would say a curse on Sinn Féin, because they're supposed to be in opposition. What a wonderful opportunity to stand up for the people of Mayo, to the people of Mayo who are brokenhearted, who are saying that they've buried their dead and they will never go into this hospital again, and they will never forgive this. And not a word from the opposition party, Sinn Féin, who are supposed to be calling this government to account. Not a peep out of them. I would say shame upon you, Sinn Féin. You are an absolute disgrace. And I would say to you, thank you for listening. Please call these hospitals and register your discontent. It's absolutely disgraceful. We are not safe. I warn you, going into this hospital, you will not hear from them. You'll call and you'll call and you'll call. They will do things against your will. And I believe at this particular moment in time, we are not safe putting the elderly or any patient in a vulnerable position. We're not safe putting them into this hospital. They are not. They're safer at home. They're safer at home. And this hospital does not belong to the staff in here who seem now to be willing to be gagged. It doesn't belong to them. It belongs to the people. This is our taxes that are paying for this hospital. It's time for the people to stand up. If they care for their loved ones, I would say stand up and speak up for yourselves before it's too late.